couple items. House Bill 1717, that defines the parameters for cities and tribal governments to coordinate. The Economic Development Committee in March encouraged staff to weave goals, policies, and implementation strategies related to the tribes throughout the comprehensive plan. And this is what we've done with this chapter. The START Forum, which is the Seattle or SeaTac Airport Stakeholder Advisory Roundtable, START for short, is our meetings that the city of Des Moines and several other surrounding cities of the airport participate in. These meetings provide feedback to the Port of Seattle on airport-related issues such as air quality, small particulates, aircraft noise, and disproportionate impacts on racial and ethnic minority groups and low-income households. Next slide. We've taken out a couple policy considerations for committee input to focus on. The first one being with the objective of weaving goals, policies, and implementation strategies related to the tribes throughout the comprehensive plan, staff has added the following to the conservation and environment element. Staff added a proposed implementation strategy to ensure city coordination with tribes in protecting archaeological resources. Staff also added a proposed implementation strategy to ensure city coordination with tribes in managing streams and wetlands. Staff modified an implementation strategy to ensure city coordination with tribes in watershed management. Staff modified an implementation strategy to ensure city coordination with tribes to protect and improve environmental quality. The second policy consideration for committee input, staff added a proposed implementation strategy to address concerns related to SeaTac airport operations. And in that, we added a strategy to continue the city's participation in the START forum that I previously spoke about. So that concludes the presentation. I could go over next steps if you'd like.
Any questions at the moment, or should we crack on? Please, go forward.
Yeah. Well, May 9th is the next Environment Committee meeting. If you have any questions that we can't answer tonight, or any concerns between now and then, we can address those at that meeting. There are several more elements that we'll be bringing along the way, such as the April 25th Economic Development meeting. We'll be bringing the neighborhood elements to. There's also a transportation committee meeting after that, and so on. This fall, the city will be issuing a SEPA determination, which has a public comment period. And after that, there will be a council hearing for adoption by the end of the year.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, if now is the time.
Sure.
So regarding HB 1181, in addition to monitoring for funding, do you have any notion as to what specific funding opportunities might be out there, at least within the next year? I'm just struck by how much I look at the EPA and for as long as it lasts, the climate commitment thing, and I just, yeah. Are there any grants or kinds of things?
Specifically for that House bill, I do not know the answer to that question.
Not off the top of my head. I don't
Well,
know.
if you could look at that, because I mean, these are noble goals, but I just would also like to know if there's some money involved. With regard to CE2, the whole thing about trees, I'm just as a practical matter, when I look at the Des Moines Creek Business Park, the extension west, it's not exactly a forest. It's just sort of not great, but If you could provide some more specifics, not necessarily, not today, but just on, because the thing is, a lot of the trees are quote-unquote trees are not exactly great, but to what extent we can do to actually retain them, that would be good. And also how the preservation, how the 3-to-1. See, the thing is, I was kind of hoping that the port would step up here with their whole land stewardship thing and provide some kind of specific help, but apparently it's on us. So I think it's the community wants to see something good happen there, as opposed to like the rest of the business park. And I don't want to hit that too hard, but you know, we'd like to know what actually that replacement, what they're going to be required to do, I guess would be my, and with regard to the tribes, is there any way to get some kind of sense of what the practical implementation, because it seems like with each project it's sort of an ad hoc thing, and I mean, are there specific things that we can think about that we'll know in advance that they're looking at, or that they would want from us, or that we can help them with, so that there are less surprises, if that makes any sense? And two other things, I promise this. Is there any word at this point on where the whole bioswales thing will fit into this at this point? I know you're doing some research into that, and at what point will that become more tangible for us? Is that a reasonable thing to ask to take a look at? And that's it for me. Colleagues, any thoughts? Councilmember Oxiger.
Yes, thank you. I note here with House Bill 1717, it talks about the parameters for coordination with cities and tribal governments. Is there any similar legislation or anything as regarding coordination between cities?
No, that's not a bad, I mean, when you think about all the special purpose districts we have here and the number of, basin plans we have here, it's actually not a bad idea to think about. If we have any, yeah.
SEPA would be a current that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's specifically called out in the comprehensive plan, but there are many programs and regulations that are cross-boundary, and for instance, Peyton brought up SEPA. Critical areas cover, don't have boundaries.
I'm not
to your
trying to-
question,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, would it help for a specific?
Sure.
Okay. Being from the Redondo area, we have a problem with the hillside, the critical areas abutting Federal Way. And of course, tree cover is extremely important, and we have a problem of people from Federal Way cutting down trees on Des Moines, within the city of Des Moines, in order to improve their views. And it has it causes issues like runoff and all of that. What is the mechanism by which there's conversation between Des Moines and Federal Way as to whether or not those sorts of activities should be allowed to continue?
Yeah, we do coordinate with our surrounding jurisdictions. I know when our comprehensive plan will go out for review, we have a list of agencies that we regularly notice for their reviews and comments, but in response specifically to something like that, we often will get, if it's unpermitted, unpermitted tree cutting, we usually get some neighborhood complaint or that. And so that tends to be more of a code enforcement issue. In other cases, we've had people who will request a property owner below them to cut trees, and they will reach out to us, and there's an environmental, depending on the location, most of those are typically in critical areas, so they have to go through a critical area review in order for us to review and evaluate the ability for them to cut or prune trees. And so we do have a process in place in our development regs to help address that.
So I guess my follow-up would just be, pity us poor council members in that you have all these cross-jurisdictional things. And like, it's astounding to me, anything along the shoreline or any of these, and have pity that if there was, and I'm having my guilt factor is coming up, but if there was a way to synthesize this stuff or give us a heads up, one could wish for a calendar or something that says a couple of months ahead of time, look, this is what is coming that we're going to have to think about in our relationship with as we're looking at today with the sewer district or with Federal Way or something on like a year-long timeline, so that the council is thinking more holistically about that. Does that make sense what I'm asking? Because I think at the current moment, I think most of us look at these things like, oh, here's the item in front of us today, and here's the item in front of us next month, rather than these environmental things, in addition to being wordy as heck, they operate under 5. The shoreline master plan is now going to 10 years, and part of me is going, phew, and the other part of me is going, well, 10 years is a long time. So if there was a way to provide some kind of a thing that allowed us to think about all of these interactions rather than just the meeting in front of us, I would welcome it. That I'm sorry if that sounds too vague, but
Well,
it
all
makes
of our,
it noble.
yeah, and all of our adjacent jurisdictions have their own shoreline master programs, and
Yeah.
those have all come down from ecology, so there may be some small nuances based on maybe some differences in how their areas may have developed in that. But for the most part, they're fairly consistent between jurisdictions. Critical areas can be a little bit more varied because at the time when we adopted our critical areas regulations back in 2007, the Department of Ecology had like 3 different options of how to regulate, and one was more, one was more lenient, and then it went to sort of a middle of the road and something that was really, really restrictive.
Yeah.
And so at the time, our council went the more lenient route, and so it was just provide that balance. But that's sort of the regulatory side that helps implement the policies that are in the conservation and environment element.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm just trying to think about future councils, just having the will to read through these thousands of pages, and it is, and you have all my empathy. This will sound old guy anecdotal, but last week, an American bald eagle flew through my street. And that's the first time in 30 years that I've had that experience here. And the coyotes and stuff, things are changing a little bit. And I'm just becoming more mindful of like how all of these different, special purpose districts interact with one another. It's really quite a thing. So anyway, I'm sorry. So Anything else on this? Please.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I'm seeing here in the notes on page 6 under item CE4, I think it says 2.4, cross out 3. So now it's 2.4.3. And it talks about the tree replacement ratio and perhaps an updated or a proposal to update the municipal code. Can you tell us a little bit more about what would need to change there, when we might be seeing some sort of suggested legislation update?
Struggling to find this one.
I know, here.
4.2.
It's like introduction page.
Is it at the top?
I'm
of-
sorry, it's on page 6.
Is it the second one down?
Yeah, second one down. It's in red. It's a lot of red. Do you want to look at this one? Yeah.
Oh, I think in this situation,
2.44, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She's got the engineering printing size, the real, actually you can see stuff on it.
Page numbers are different.
Yeah, oh, okay.
I see, yeah.
And I'm looking at that comment section that says, oh my gosh, I'm gonna need
proposed
a,
update per
Yeah.
C code,
yeah,
suggested addition per 1625.
you got it.
On this particular one, I mean, I would have to go back and look at the code to see, but I think it was, this was our consultant's, comment here, and I think if anything, just confirming that that ratio is consistent with the development code
Oh, okay,
that we
okay.
currently have.
And it
But
looks
we
like,
can follow up and clarify at the next time, we'll note this as a question that we can clarify next time.
I'm fairly certain you're correct. I looked at it
Yeah.
earlier today.
It is,
Mhm.
yeah. I think it's providing consistency, a little consistency with our code.
Okay.
Specific code requirements.
mhm.
And we typically try not to have too much code language built into the comp plan, because the comp plan's more of a policy document and not a
Mhm.
regulatory document.
Gotcha.
So we could potentially say, you know, maybe that not list a specific ratio, because at some point down the line, that may need to change. And I know we are going to be, Tyler has a consultant working with him on, evaluating, tree forest canopy and that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so the results of that may influence some of these policies as well.
That's an excellent segue, because that was one of the next things I wanted to ask. And so you don't have to go into it now if it's not on the agenda, but I would love to hear about that in the future. Especially considering that once you cut down a 100-year-old tree, you can't replace it with another 100-year-old tree.
Any other questions? Well, then we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule unless there's something else going on. If not, then could we move on to our next item?
Unless you had something, Jason?
I was just thinking about, Councilmember Oxley's question about federal land in the city. These critical area regulations are, you know, they're regulated by the state ecology and everything, so we should have somewhat similar regulations. So in that way, there is some mutual coordination there, only because it's regulated in
Mhm.
that form. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
So if, I guess we're talking about the capital improvement project updates at this point?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, council members. Tyler Beakley, Surface Water Manager, and I also brought a colleague with me.
My name is Colin Wing. I'm a civil engineer 1 in the stormwater department.
He's gonna help me walk through our active capital improvement design or construction, again, we like to bring kind of status updates to the Environment Committee 3 or 4 times a year, just as we do a check-in on these specific projects that we're working through. So I'm gonna dive right in and just start at the top of the list with the projects we have in construction. The first one, Kent Des Moines Road Culvert Replacement. This was a partnership with WashDOT where we replaced an old aging culvert underneath Kent Des Moines Road between 10th and 16th. The project went very smoothly. The new culvert's in. The only remaining portion of the project, and we have heard some citizen complaints on this, but final pavement restoration is coming.
Okay.
Right now, there's temporary pavement on KDM. They're just waiting for a good weather window to come in and do the final pavement. Once that's complete, they'll be closing out the project, and we can take that one off the list, so it might not be on there next time. Next project to discuss is the 24th Avenue South pipeline replacement project, and this is sort of a sub-project under the larger 24th Avenue project, 223rd to KDM. This project is currently in construction, although on suspension. Transportation is leading this project, so they have a sort of a more in-depth update to sort of the utility negotiations that's going on, which are causing the suspension at their committee meeting. They'll be able to go in more depth. But the storm, if you drive by our service center, they have stockpiled storm pipe ready to put in as soon as this project is ready to go back in. And I think that is anticipated to continue construction this summer. Next in construction, we have our First Avenue South pump replacement project. So this is in North Hill, right adjacent to First Avenue South, by the Nordy Park Town Center. We have a pond, if you're driving north, on the right side of the road right there. So that pond is within Des Moines, although very close to Nordy Park, and there's old aging pumps that were last installed, I believe, in 2005. So we are replacing those pumps and the control panel. That's the original control panel from 1972. So all that's being updated in the spring, summer, so we can be prepared for next winter and make sure we have an operational facility. So they are right in the middle of that construction. The new pumps are in, the control panel's in, and they're just doing the last components to finalize that project up.
And where is that water being pumped to?
That, I believe it's Arrow Lake, if I remember right, in Normandy Park. Sometimes I get those lakes mixed up, but it goes north up first and then towards the lake to Normandy Park.
Okay.
And a lot of water that goes to that pond is from First Avenue South, a small neighborhood in Normandy Park, and then a decent portion of Des Moines North Hill drains to that pond, and then it's pumped to the lake. Moving on to projects that are in design. So these are within engineering at different levels, and we're working towards getting these to construction. So first on the list is Kent Des Moines and 16th, and I'll pass it over to Colin.
Kent Des Moines and 16th is located obviously at the intersection of Kent Des Moines Road and 16th Avenue South. The project is to replace undersized existing stormwater system to prevent flooding in a private homeowner. The bid for advertisement is currently live, and the bid opening date is scheduled for April 22nd. And then for the Des Moines Memorial Drive 208th 12th project and 216th Place project, those two projects are being designed, permitted, and constructed together. And those projects are located at the Des Moines Memorial Drive from 208th to 12th, and we're replacing a series of ditches with new catch basins and underground pipes. We just got into agreements with Highline Water District in order for new ILA for them to pay the city to move the design and location of the proposed project into the road. And we'll be starting the permitting process for both of those projects soon.
Yeah, and I'll just add a note on that one. So Colin mentioned we are working on an ILA with Highline Water District. That will come to council for approval, and we'll likely see that in the next month or two, just as an FYI there. then Deepdene.
Deepdene outfall project is located at a private home near a cul-de-sac at South 260th Street. And that project is to replace a outfall pipe that was damaged during a landslide. Currently, we will be presenting a new easement for a new storm drain alignment, and we'll be starting permitting for that project soon as well. The purpose of the new easement is to construct the new outfall pipe along an alignment that's different than where the previous landslide occurred. This is to have a better design in an area that's less prone to future landslides.
Great, and the final note on that one is that is on the consent agenda for tonight, full
Yes.
council meeting, for that, to approve that easement.
Why is it at risk? I mean,
For-
why is it in the pink?
Oh, absolutely. So that's mainly a schedule risk. As we were working through this easement when we prepared this a week ago, the status is still up in the air. And we're still waiting then to trigger our consultant to finalize the design. It's very much ready to move probably to the yellow after, assuming we get approval on the easement tonight.
I'm just asking because it seems like it's been going on for a long time.
Absolutely. A lot of it was negotiating with, and a sort of a legal inquiry on ownership. Took a few years to sort out.
Yeah.
So it has been on probably the project longest on this list.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was, it looks like we were gonna do it like 5 times and then something.
And it's never gone away. We've just been slowly working towards sort of, and I'm hoping it'll be this summer, if not next summer, we get it built. The last two, I'll start with the Massey Creek Pocket Estuary and Fish Project. So this one is sort of a larger initiative by Wyron 9, so that's a water resource inventory area, sort of our local Puget Sound area. And that's a project highlighted on their salmon recovery plan. Actually, both estuary projects are on that plan. The city of Des Moines, we received a $3,500 grant to start the design on that project. We are working through that on with our consultant, but we have hit two sort of roadblocks to making this project sort of realistic in the short term. One is there's a large PSC easement that runs through just adjacent to the creek through private property that serves Maury Island. And they communicated that we must keep our estuary outside of their easement, which is a huge constraint to looking at options. And we're still working with them on how close we can encroach or if there's any room to work with them. But it seems a very much huge constraint to the project. Another one is this mouth of the creek runs through private property. We've engaged the property owners to see if we could work with them on easements, partial acquisitions, or if a full acquisition would be entertained, and they're very much not inclined to have that conversation at all with us. So it's looking like a very long-term project. So we're going to continue to spend these funds to develop what a design could look like with these constraints, but the project at the end of the grant will likely get shelved until there's an opportunity to open it up again. I'm going to shift now to the other project, the Des Moines Creek Pocket Estuary. So Des Moines Creek, the mouth of the creek, we're also looking to improve salmon habitat. There's armored rocks as you look towards Normandy Park, and the creek is armored up itself, up the mouth of the creek, and then we have the bulkhead in front of the old Wasson House, adjacent to the marina wall there. So that's a pretty old bulkhead there as well, and this project is really looking at from Normandy Park's boundary to the marina floor, the whole shoreline, and improving it there. We've engaged our consultant with a We actually have 2 grants secured on this project, both for 250K, so we have $500,000 in total to spend to advance design. We're at a point with our consultant where we've gone through site constraints, looked at utilities, talked with our parks department, and we're just in that information gathering stage to know what our options are. Our next step is to sort of present some design options to internal staff to further refine. And then at that point, we'll look to engage outside stakeholders. So the public, utility districts, the WIRA 9 technical folks to make sure we're on track to promote salmon habitat. And this one is on track to sort of continue progressing as we seek grant funding. There's a lot of dollars out there for fish habitat, salmon habitat, to restore shorelines, to remove armoring. So this one is both projects are anticipated to be fully grant funded through construction. But it is a long process.
Really? Wait, the fully funded? Really?
To be fully funded.
No, but I mean, at some point.
At some point, yeah. So right now we have secured $500,000,
Yeah,
but there is
yeah.
no city funds, no stormwater funds anticipated to go towards these projects.
Okay, but I mean, the construction,
Yes.
actually.
Mhm.
Man, I wish I could connect the word salmon to basically.
Anything, yeah.
construction project. I'm sorry, that took
No,
me down.
no, I get it.
Wow,
That concludes staff's presentation of item number 2.
Back to the Massey Creek, and that's the one with the restriction around the private property. Are the folks there, the property owners, more inclined to, I know they don't wanna talk to you right now, but are they more inclined to the easement option or the we buy your entire parcel option?
I can't speak to that. Well,
Okay.
I can speak to, it would likely be when they're ready to sell
Right, sure,
completely.
yes, yes,
Yeah, we have not made any progress on an in-between option.
okay. Cause there are funding opportunities for that as well.
Yeah, as far as eminent domain or anything else like that, we're
Mhm.
not considering that at all
Yeah.
for this point. We
I'm
wanna
not-
be cordial and,
Yeah, I'm not considering that either, for the record, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting, just because
Uh-huh.
it's private property, that's
Right.
not on the table.
Sure, yes, but there are programs that you can buy properties
Exactly,
to revert back to estuary.
exactly.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure,
Yep.
yes.
Any other questions on the rest of the projects?
I have a couple, just, and I'm not being facetious, what does one get for $3,500? I mean, in terms
I think I probably misspoke.
you said.
350K.
Oh, yeah, that's a big difference.
Yes, thank you for.
I was like, no wonder it's being
I
shelved.
had trouble spitting out that number.
It's
Thank you.
quite okay, it's quite okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, and I'm not being, and,
Yeah.
since my colleague opened the door a little bit, I mean, what is the without getting into, I mean, what is the primary objection of the property owner in terms of, I mean, is it a aesthetics thing, or just
it's
general
a
principle?
government perception thing.
Okay, because we've looked at this for years, and I've just, under different, and I look at it as more of an opportunity for if I were the owner rather than,
Yeah.
okay, anyway.
There may be room to still engage as we reach a final design, but,
No, I'm just thinking in terms of, just like impact on what the objections are, impact to their property value, aesthetics, or just general principle, it's
I'll-
my land
I'll-
and darn it.
yeah, I'll just add one more note, is that and we presented that because there are 2 state noted fish barriers on Massey Creek located on their private property that this project would correct,
Yeah.
and those would be solved.
Mhm.
So there would be that sort of property benefit.
The only, I'm just curious. This is completely rhetorical, and my colleagues are far too nice about it in transportation, but is there some challenge with the profession of flaggers at the moment because there's a consistent, this isn't your thing, but maybe it's yours, but I get calls from residents all the time. Every transportation project, there are flagging issues, flagger issues, I don't know what the term for it is, essentially. Just that traffic gets held up and have any rules changed that I should know about or we should know about, rather? Okay.
No,
Not my department.
no.
I'm sorry,
And
I'm
not
just-
that I'm aware of,
I'm
we
just throwing it
have
out there.
measures to enforce traffic control on our projects. Obviously, there's projects in the city by other entities, which
Yeah.
would be managed by a right-of-way permit, so it's really,
No, it's just,
catching those complaints live, so we could go out there and address them, and, which is very hard to do, because most of the time they get home and then email the council, by that time, they're already left for the day.
Yeah.
Um,
but it's like a third level sub, and it's just that I hear about it all the time, and I don't recall that being the case in the past. So, okay, so, I mean, that's it for me. Colleagues, anything else? Okay, then, I guess we're, moving on. Are we at the, district? Yeah, Southwest Suburban General Sewer Plan update.
Absolutely. I'm gonna breeze through this one, just given our time constraints. So as you know, within the city, there's 3 sewer districts. Specifically today, we're talking about Southwest Suburban District, which has a small pocket of North Hill, mostly within Normandy Park and Berrien, and probably unincorporated King County as you continue north. So sewer districts are charged by the state to develop a sewer plan. This plan is similar to the surface water comp plan, and theirs is updated every 5 years. This highlights capital improvement projects, it sets rates, and identifies certain policies that they would want to change for their district. I'm just going to hit a few of the key points as we walk through the summary. Starting with capital improvement projects, they do highlight several projects within their jurisdiction, both short-term and long-term. The only one, and it's not even within Des Moines' jurisdiction, it's adjacent, it's right next to that pond I described on First Avenue, where they're upsizing and replacing aging pipe to help serve future development within the North Hill. So it does help Des Moines citizens and Des Moines growth, but it's no projected projects within Des Moines area. Their rate structure that they're proposing, their 2023 and 2024 rates are previously set and already approved. So this plan is looking at setting rates for 2025 through 2028, and they're proposing a 4.5% increase to utility fees. And they do note in their plan that sort of, if as a sewer district looks at rates compared to median household income, they're within that standard still. And I think the last update I will touch on is just looking at sort of staff comments and where we're at today, because yes, comments are due April 24th on this draft plan. Within surface water, we have 2 comments. One is they put our old franchise agreement in their plan, so we want them to update to our current franchise
Yes.
agreement. And the last, and our other update is we want them to, they reference in their plan that they have a process for encouraging new sewer projects. They have a policy to incorporate new sewer projects, but they don't promote them or encourage them.
Initiate requests
They don't,
for.
they don't initiate those requests. So just given water quality issues surrounding septic systems and our local creeks, we want them to create a program that encourages it and provides more opportunity for neighborhoods to reach out and get those septic houses on sewer systems. Whatever that looks like, we just want them to entertain that. And then also we're working with our planning department on they're gonna review the plan as well and provide some comments, specifically how it relates to our comp plans and critical areas, et cetera. That's what I have for this item.
I don't have any.
Okay, so I guess we gotta get ready for the next dinner service, but I do have a comment regarding that specific thing, 4.1. King County has had this, different things, grants for, and credits for cleaning up servicing your septic system, and they have expanded that north into suburban, they tell me. And it is, I don't know how, but this is a really wonderful paragraph, and whatever we can do to not only promote getting people off of septic, there's like this whole, there's this whole strip of people, and they try to organize every once in a while, and they never seem to get off the ground, but if anything we could do to obtain a community meeting or do something to push that forward, they just need a little help, organizing a bit, and we want to get people off of these because they're all attended. So that's it. Thank you so much. And are there any other questions, comments from anyone else? Okay. Well, in that case, I will entertain a motion to end this wonderful meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Second.